healing is not just the physical body. You can't just put a Band-Aid on it and call it good.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour and Understanding Autoimmune and its websites and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Saylor from SharonSaylor.com and, of course, from UnderstandingAutoimmune.com. And I'm here today with a very dear friend of mine. We've been friends for a really long time, and she has a brand new book out. She's been on the show before, so I was so glad to catch up with MarBeth Dunn again. Her new book is called Awaken the Healer Within, and I am so excited to talk to her about it because if you've watched the show for any length of time, you know I am a huge proponent of taking charge of your own healing and understanding that healing is more than just the physical, put a Band-Aid on it kind of thing. And MarBeth, welcome to the show.
Yay, I'm so happy to be here with you, Sharon. This is great.
Absolutely. And I want to have plenty of time to jump right in because I love the topic and you are a master of understanding this. I want people to understand, though, because it's all about somatic healing. Or the majority of the book's about somatic healing, I should say. And I think people don't understand what somatic healing is. Can you share what is somatic healing?
Somatic healing is basically body-centered healing. And I believe that our bodies love us. They really are trying to communicate with us all the time. That pain under your shoulder blade may be letting you know that you're reacting to somebody betraying you or a perceived betrayal. That knot in your gut may just be because you feel like your power was taken away. And your body's always letting you know things, but we don't necessarily tune into the body very often. We're just up in our heads. So somatic healing brings you into the body and shares tools and ways to release stress and anxiety and past trauma and self-sabotage and all different kinds of fun things that we do to ourselves. Our bodies are there to help us to release them.
Oh, absolutely. And so if you're going, okay, I've got a pain in my shoulder and the MD has said everything's fine, it's all in your head. It's not really all in your head is what I found. Oftentimes it is what I call trapped problems or trapped energies or things that you, for whatever reason, ruminating about, things can get stuck in there.
That definitely get stuck in there. And what's so good is that there are ways of releasing it. And there are ways of communicating with our body that are just wonderful. And once we can learn the language of our bodies, and you are an expert in the language of the body, I know.
Well, we share that, but go ahead.
Once we learn that language of the body, we can start to communicate. And what I found in my personal journey, I used a pendulum to begin that communication process with my body. I'm not going to swing it because the camera doesn't like that.
Yeah, right.
Pendulum.
Explain how you would use a pendulum to open up dialogue with your body.
The pendulum is going to swing by itself, basically guided by your subconscious in different ways. I learned first from a book many years ago that I could communicate with the pendulum by just saying, tell me what a yes is. And my pendulum swung in a clockwise movement. And then I asked it, what is a no for me? And it went back and forth, or sideways, back and forth. And then I don't know was forward and backward. And then I don't want to answer, which really protects you when in a counterclockwise circle. So I had these 4 directions and I just asked yes or no questions because that's the only way you can use the pendulum. Actually, it isn't. There are other ways that you could use the pendulum. People use them for healing. I don't. I only used it for communication with my subconscious, which my body was my access to. And that's basically what I go into in my book, because I think it's really important to be able to ask what's going on here, but in the yes or no questions.
Now, I love the fourth one. I don't want to answer. I think that is an interesting one that I might continue to pursue. Tell me more about the why behind why don't I want to answer. Because one thing I've learned that oftentimes the body will do things to protect ourselves for
Hmm.
whatever reason, could be spiritual, emotional, physical, numerous reasons. We're not ready to hear the
Exactly.
exact answers. So sometimes our body protects ourselves and in ways that maybe aren't the most helpful, because if we were able to move through it faster or with more clarity, whatever. So I find it interesting that at times, not consciously or on purpose, but we can sabotage ourselves.
We can. And that's a wonderful safeguard because when I was trying to find out why I had such severe asthma, and I knew that there had to be a root cause, and I knew that if I bulldozed through it, I was going to get the answer, and that I don't want to answer, although I didn't often listen to it, would get me into
You and I are like on that.
a lot of trouble because I would have these huge asthma attacks. And basically, it's because your body loves you so much, it wants to keep you safe. And if you don't feel safe and you don't know that you don't feel safe in your body and you're trying to push something through, it's not good. Your body's there. When you tap in and just ask, is it safe for me to pursue this track? You may not be ready to right now, or maybe you need to learn some other information first, or maybe it's just a matter of readiness. But I've learned that it's really important to listen to that guidance because every time I haven't listened, I have gotten into really bad trouble.
Sometimes, though, time is not always on our side. If we get an answer similar to that, I just want to pursue this tangent for rabbit hole for a second. Get an answer like, no. Is it okay to ask things like when or what do I need to do to
Well,
get ready?
it won't answer when unless you say, will it be okay for me to ask this again tomorrow? Will it be okay? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Okay.
Or,
So we can
or
ask, are we there yet every day?
then if you know that it's not safe for you to pursue it, you can just ask, is it safe for me to pursue other avenues? And then you can perhaps circumvent it and release. Well, I have so many tools to release these issues that are there. But the safety is, I think, the most important thing that you always want to make sure that you feel safe. Because if you don't, there might be that very young child inside of you who was traumatized and just creating resistance. If you're trying to push through, you're basically creating resistance for yourself. That for me was my asthma. It was like, stop.
When we're talking, things come to my mind about times when during my healing process where there were medical interventions or other types of things that from the logical standpoint were medically necessary, but I felt a lot of resistance, or I'll say I felt a lot of fear about it, and
Yeah.
having to work through the fear and come
Yep.
to my own place of, okay, understanding that this particular procedure, while doesn't sound cool, it sounds scary, whatever. So, do you have tips and tricks for people to be able to find out, A, is this the right time or procedure for me, and then to be
Well,
able to go ahead and go through the
absolutely.
fear.
First of all, if you're feeling fear, we have several ways of releasing that. You might want to tap in, is this fear? My favorite question, is this mine?
Oh,
Because
that's a
you
great
and I are
question.
both empaths, right? So
Yeah.
we take on other people's energy, and that fear that you're feeling may not even be yours. So that's the first question. And if it's not yours, then what I like to do is just push it out. Just push it out. And I send love and peace and healing to whoever it belongs to, but I don't want
But we
it.
don't really need to know who it belongs to, right?
No, we
I
don't.
thought we could just send it back without an address label. We could just send
No,
it back.
just take it out. I don't need to send it back if it's that
Okay.
icky. but just send love and peace to that person. Because one of the beautiful things about energy is that when you're sending love and peace to someone else, it's coming back to you. It's just a beautiful thing. So what you give, you receive. It's a spiritual law.
I love that. And we've tapped our toe in just a bit into chapter 2 about preparing for our journey to understanding somatic healing. I want to dive deeper into that preparation part because I found that chapter fascinating. And what obviously it's chapter 2 for a reason because it's the critical first step. Let's talk a little bit about as we're listening to this and be going, oh, yes, I'm recognizing things in here I could really use. What are some of the groundwork we need to lay first?
First of all, the most important is that you are safe and you feel safe. That's absolutely crucial because when we feel safe, then we're free to explore deeper. And I do offer a couple of ways to communicate with your subconscious. One is the pendulum, which was a lifesaver for me. And it blew my mind how much I did not know about myself and my feelings about different things because I had repressed so much from a very difficult, very early childhood, which was very traumatic. I had repressed so much that my body was always trying to shield me and protect me, plus the fact that I'm an empath and highly sensitive. And I was living on a mountaintop in Haiti. And the energy in Haiti, they practice voodoo and beautiful people, but there was energy around that was very difficult for me to I didn't know I was an empath. I thought there was something really wrong with me.
I
I know
think
you
that's
can
the
relate to
important thing
that.
to understand that sometimes you're just different. There's not, it's not really wrong with you. But as children, sometimes we're labeled something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. You
I was
pick up
called highly
energy.
sensitive, but in a very negative way. Get over it. Or she's just sensitive. Not nice ways to label someone.
I know I wasn't, but again, I held so much in because basically people in my family were very stoic. They didn't show a lot of emotion. And although my grandfather could show a lot of rage, but most of the other people, like my mom, they would just get strong and stoic and hold in their emotions. And you and I both know that's not the best way to deal with things because eventually that's going to have to be dealt with. It's going to come out
And that's
one
what your
way
book
or
is
another.
about. Well, how helping that come out in a safe way and a
Yes,
useful way.
yes. Also, the other thing that I explore is muscle testing, which I learned later when I was becoming an energy healer. And I learned to muscle test. And I find that's pretty, I say about 90% accurate. Sometimes our subconscious can override the results, can we say? But for the most part, I think it's really good because I use it all the time, even when I'm working with my clients to just really check in what's actually happening here. So my body's always giving me the responses continuously. So I think it's really important to have the right mindset because your mindset is so important. You don't want to be a victim. I felt like a victim for a great part of my life. And it's real easy to do that because you don't have to take any responsibility for what happened to you. When I learned that my thoughts had power, which was around this same time, and I could choose different thoughts, that was huge. So these are both things that I think are really important. That mindset is yes, I'm taking responsibility for what's happening inside me right now. And I'm going to move through this on my own. I can do this.
I like those because sometimes we have to keep repeating that to ourselves when it's new, when we're
Yes,
just learning to adapt to it and become more consciously aware of doing it. I find that just sometimes almost making that an affirmation or a mantra to be
a
able to
mantra.
remind ourselves. Because I don't know about you or the community, but for me, it's sometimes easy to slip back into those old I'll put in air quotes because it's what I thought was safe. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
be stoic because it's safer to be stoic than to speak my truth. Having those great ways to be able to reinforce what we're learning and be able to move forward and go, okay, this is working. I'll take one more step forward.
Yeah, and I find like also putting post-its. I think I suggested that when I have an affirmation at the end of every chapter, and I suggest that you put post-it notes around. You could put them on your computer, on your refrigerator, your bathroom mirror, things like everything always goes right for me. And just to be able to start to shift the focus of your thoughts, and your body's going to guide you with that. Your body's going to let you know, oh, that doesn't feel good. Notice that your body's communicating. That thought doesn't feel good. I'm going to choose a thought that feels good. And then you can check in and say, if I say to myself, everything goes right for me, how does that feel? It feels a lot more expansive and open than things always happen to me and I'm just such a failure. You just feel how you contract with those particular thoughts.
Wow, even just hearing the thought. It
I
wasn't really the
know.
thought. It's the sort of that don't think of pink elephants problem, isn't it?
We don't want to think of pink elephants, but we can always choose every second. You have that opportunity to choose a new thought. And that thought can move you forward into a higher vibrational experience where you're going to feel better and you become more optimistic because even though things may not feel like you're making any progress right now, just by shifting that thought, you're creating that opportunity for things to work.
Absolutely. I want to circle back to muscle testing though, because my first experience was someone helping me through that muscle testing with me, and they were observing the reactions and coming up with their own conclusions until I learned how to muscle test with myself.
Right.
And so I think it's important that people understand you can muscle test with yourself if you've only experienced it in a situation where someone is doing it with you. They might think, oh, I always have to go to this particular practitioner and
Exactly.
get muscle tested.
Yeah, for years I had the chiropractors. They held your arm out and then they're pressing down to see whether this is whatever supplement they're trying to give you is going to be good for your body and work with your body. And that's a wonderful thing, but we can do it ourselves. And I show you how to do that in the book. Just I loop my thumb and pointer, the fingers together, and then I loop the other thumb and pointer fingers around them. And if that sounds a little weird, look in my book.
And if you're on video, because this is how MarBeth taught me to do it, you say you loop your fingers together. So it makes like a infinity symbol, is what I like to
Yeah,
think about it. Because I think that it's got so much energy behind it or power behind it. I like to make the infinity symbol with it.
absolutely. And so for me, when I ask a yes or no question and it holds, that for me is a yes. And a no would be when they pull apart. And they do that. It's so interesting that your subconscious just controls it. You're not doing that yourself, but your subconscious is there. And it may be the opposite for you. You're going to work with your own subconscious and you'll get the responses that work for you. And another way of doing it is to stand up straight and just say what your name is. And you say, my name is MarBeth. And if I'm standing up and I lean forward with that, it just happens, then that's a yes. Or if I lean backward, that would be a no. So then I could test, my name is Sharon. And if now you have to play around with it, and it might be the opposite for you. I don't know how your body is going to react
And it
because
could
we
be very subtle. I want to point out that the lean is not like you're going to fall over. For at least for me, it's not. It's very subtle.
it is subtle. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't worry that you're like, oh, if I say my name is Donald and I'm not, I'm going to go splat.
No, you don't go, but it may take a while to really play around with this. And what I did when I wrote the book is I created an exercise page to go along with it on the website. And I have the links in the book so that when you're looking at an exercise, you may not understand it. I will demonstrate it on that web page.
That's really helpful because sometimes people, if you're new to this, it's, you're like, you're doing what?
Yeah.
Although I wanted to circle back about the infinity with locking your fingers and your thumbs together with the muscle testing. And you were talking about it's either tight or it breaks apart, which yes, it does for me, but sometimes I get a mushy one. Okay,
Oh,
something
isn't that
changed.
interesting?
Okay, it's not snapping apart, which it happens frequently, but
Yeah.
every so often I'll get what I call my mushy one where it's okay, it's almost apart. And then I ask a few yet more yes or no questions, like maybe there's just some little shift I need to make it a yes, or it's a shift to a no. But it's funny how I ask the question
That is interesting. Yeah, I haven't
affects the response.
really noticed that, but I'm going to look for that one. I'll just ask again until I get a clear answer.
Every so often I get one, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what that was. It was like it's not super firm like it was, and it didn't fly apart like it does. I'll keep asking and, like you said, clarifying questions until I get to the point where, okay, I have something that I consciously go, okay, I've got it. I've got the answer.
And then I also want to reaffirm the safety is basically the most important part of the book. You always want to feel safe. And so many of us don't. You may not recognize it. I always feel in we have different chakras or energy power centers in our body. And underneath our torso, we have our root chakra. It's base of the spine and forward. And I might find that when I'm not in a place of feeling safe, that my legs will cross, or I might maybe having some issues just feeling my body reacts. I feel things in my body, and I know a lot of people don't. Most people I find are up in their heads or even not even in their bodies. They might be out there, somewhere because it's not safe to be in the body. That body is holding past traumas. And if you've experienced a trauma, it may feel like really uncomfortable to be there. What I say, it's always important to make sure that you're safe. And that's a good question to always ask. Is it safe for me to pursue this? I think that's really important.
I first learned about being out there, as we said. I always think about that phrase of someone will say, I'm beside myself.
Yes,
Maybe you really are.
yes,
Check in and see if part of you is over there.
I know, because we're so much greater than our bodies. In Kundalini Yoga, they talk about having 10 bodies. I like to focus on our physical body, the energy body, which is important, our emotional body. So these are all part of the holistic package. And so one of the things that I will ask with muscle testing is this issue energetic? Is this issue physical? Is this issue emotional? And then I can deal with it based on the response.
That's beautiful. Yes. And I've shared with the Courage Club community for years now. The first couple of years of the show, I was doing very physical things, talking to doctors, researchers, very much on the physical level, until I had a gastroenterologist on the show who had combined, interestingly enough, the physical, his work, very physical, fixing the gut, with a therapist, and he found that he had greater success with very what he called the patient that he had a harder time just, oh, fix this and you'll be fine, take that, you'll be fine. And I found that interesting. And then he went on to find that not just there, it wasn't just combining the physical and then I'll say the mental, the therapy, but then he found that people who then integrated the other, like the emotional and spiritual, through things like meditation and prayer and readings and invocations, affirmations, that their healing even became more profound and came about quicker. That was the moment when I went, aha, why the show now during these last, it's been on the air for over 10 years, is all about bringing people like MarBeth to the show, because healing is not just the physical body. You can't just put a band-aid on it and call it good.
Because your body again is communicating that issue that you have with your lower back. Or what happens with me is that I'll feel like I'm coming down with the flu. If I, for example, and I think I mentioned this in the book, I was in Las Vegas with my daughter and her husband and the kids. We were there for a week. We're having a great time. The night before they were going home to New Mexico and I was going home to Florida, I woke up at 3 in the morning with a sore throat and a pain in my chest. And I felt like I was going to come down with, I was just on my way down with the flu. And I'm thinking, oh no, not before I travel. I don't want this before I travel. But then I checked in. I said, is this physical? And I got it. No, it's not. And I said, is emotional? I don't ask, is this? I just say, this is emotional. I say it as a statement and a declarative statement. And my body said, yes, this is emotional. And of course, I was feeling, I remember my family always repressed emotions. So my body was saying, hey, you're holding grief, you're holding sadness in your chest, because that's where we hold grief and sadness. And I was able to tap in and just stay with the feeling, just stay there with that feeling and acknowledge it. Our bodies want us to be able to acknowledge what we're feeling. So when I acknowledged it and I stayed with it, it dissipated. Because that's what emotions want to do. They want to flow in and flow out. They don't want to just stay there and congest in your chest or your throat. And your throat is where we hold these unexpressed emotions. So when I expressed it, when I was able to allow myself to feel the feelings, I went to sleep. I was fine. I never caught any sickness or anything. And the next morning I got up and I told my kids about that. I said, this is what happened to me last night. Because I think it's so important to be able to share that knowledge so that other people can just say, oh, yeah, that happens to me too.
Absolutely. And coming from that place, sometimes I find, and just my little asterisk on this, it's coming from a place of just sharing what happened. It's not that the other person has to fix it. Okay.
Exactly.
Sometimes I run into people who are expressing from the point of whatever, and they are assuming the outside party has to fix it. And I
Yeah.
like to say, if you didn't cause it, you don't fix it. Not your job. Yeah, this kind of work, while lovely to express with the people and share the journey, is really an inside job. It's
Yeah.
something that
Very,
we have
very,
to commit to.
very important, Sharon. That's brilliant. Thank you for saying that.
Well, sometimes I find people try to, I'll say more on the physical level, but it can be on all the other levels, export or make someone else, their healing become someone else's thing. I noticed that especially, I grew up with the idea of white coat authority. You
Yeah, me
never
too.
said no to the doctor, they were always right. And in this part of my healing journey, I've noticed that they're offering their best suggestions.
They're
But
doing the best they can,
right,
hopefully.
hopefully. But for the most part, most of them I've run into are really offering their best suggestions. A lot of them have been right, thankfully. A few of them have been not so right.
And then checking in. I also have that white coat syndrome. And it's and my father was a doctor.
That adds to it. Personally, I would think my father was not a doctor, so it was external. But as a family member, an authority figure in your childhood, wow, that would really add to that white coat authority.
Yeah, yeah. I'll find when I go to the doctor, my blood pressure will suddenly shoot up just to be there.
And they take your blood pressure, and you're like, and they say, "Whoa, MarBeth, your blood pressure." And you're like, "It wasn't that way 5 minutes ago."
Yeah, and then, so what they recognize that and they will take it again later. And lately it just hasn't even been, it's been a blip. It hasn't been a shifting at all. So I must
But I
be
think it's important for
progress.
people to understand that can happen when you go somewhere and there's any sort of stress. And it may not just be like your blood pressure. They may say things like your heart's beating faster or your temperature has changed or all sorts of things could happen. And it might be the situation, not the underlying cause. Be able to clarify for within yourself, oh, I'm just feeling whatever it is right now here in this doctor's office because it's a new doctor, I don't know them, whatever it is, being able to clarify what is current situation and what is not current situation. What do I need to
And
deal with?
and it's also important, I believe, to take what they say, because very often when you listen to a doctor and they are authority figures, it's very often that we take what they say as gospel. and it becomes, it's almost like casting a spell on you. So I think it's really important to tap into your own being and listen. Is this accurate for me? I would again phrase it, this is accurate for me. And the body would respond to it because it may not be.
And just a quick story. A couple of months ago, I got very sick, caught some sort of crud, right? And coughing was involved in a lot of that. And I healed and was fine. And then I noticed shortly after that, I was having problems with my low back and my hip. And I started just working on fixing my hip. Come to find out a few days after that, talking to my body and to other healers that I know. And I realized, oh, Sharon, your hip is actually just responding to the fact that you cough so hard. So it really wasn't my hip. It was a reaction to my body's reaction to so much coughing. The pain didn't really show up where the event happened. And I found that fascinating too, that I'm so much concentrating on fixing my hip without realizing that my ribs and my diaphragm were in spasm from all that coughing was actually causing the
Yeah,
pain in my hip. So it's important to check in because once I had that conscious realization and I sat down and I checked in, it was such an obvious yes. So I had one of those duh kind of moments.
I know, I know. Really do tune in to your body. And it's going to take some time. And it may not even be comfortable to do that. You can go outside, and it's beautiful now in the summertime to go outside in nature. Take your shoes off and let the earth just ground you and notice what happens in your body. Notice how you start to relax, to breathe, hug a tree. Feel
Mhm.
the energy just shift in your being. Feel the stress leave you. Just notice what happens.
That is one thing I think people forget so much. I don't know if it's our love affair with shoes or what, or our love affair with cleanliness, I'll put in air quotes, or what it is. But that idea of grounding, taking off your shoes and feeling soil, grass, sand, whatever it is beneath your feet, is taking a moment to really feel the shift in your body. Oftentimes, even if they take off their shoes and are walking around, they're not noticing how much is happening, how your body's changing. And it happens fairly quickly for me.
Yeah,
Checking with you, MarBeth, does it happen fairly quickly that you
it
feel that
does.
energy shift?
And I love being on the beach and feeling that warm sand under my feet.
Now, see, you're in Florida, so your sand's warm. My sand is not warm, but I still love the feeling of it. You get used to it. One of my favorite is actually is just a really lush grass. That's one of my favorite
Oh,
feelings.
I love that.
It's grass too. Walking on really soft, lovely grass is wonderful too. But then I would talk to some of my friends who are in certain parts of the South who say our grass is not so as soft as your grass. So choose what you like to ground on and do it. Take your shoes off,
Yeah.
your feet feel the real earth. There was a movie I watched one time, and it was all about grounding. And I think that was the name of it, actually, of the movie. And I learned so much from that movie. I don't know if it's still available, guys, but you might want to see if you can find that movie out there. And they talk about the science of why that happens. And so it was pretty fascinating.
It's really, and we can do it with our intention and visualization. One of the techniques I like to use is to imagine that we have a cord going down through the soles of your feet. Sometimes I visualize it from the base of my spine as well, going down into the earth, all the way down into the earth. And while I'm saying this, I know you can feel that,
Hmm.
just grounding, and then pull that energy. I like to think of it as love, pulling that love energy up through that cord into the soles of your feet, up your spine, and filling up every cell of your being. And just feel that. Doesn't that feel yummy?
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Actually hit my chakras even before you got there. I started to notice, I'm like, okay, but it's happening so fast. It feels so fast that even before the speed of the voice, it happened faster than that.
I want to address, because I know that you have listeners and viewers who are feeling anxious. I had panic attacks when I would be getting ready for an exam in college. I had these major panic attacks. I would feel like tingles up and down my left arm, like I was getting a heart attack or something. And I was 19. And I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening. All this anxiety would bubble up. Now we know that there are techniques that we can use to release this anxiety. You can release it physically, but I think it's also important. You can use the emotional freedom technique, which is great at releasing unwanted experiences, shall we say, like anxiety and stress, or even past trauma. And just by tapping on the body's meridians, we can actually release these experiences. And it can be a very safe way to release PTSD and trauma. And that's just one way. We can always just shake it off like animals. They start like a doggy after it's had a bath and it starts to shake. You can just shake your whole body and you can just relieve stress and anxiety that way.
When I was just beginning doing a lot of public speaking, I used to be like behind the curtain, so to speak, and just do the wet golden retriever shake. And it was amazing. And the other thing that I also, after the shake, I noticed that if I would roll my shoulders back really fast,
Yes,
just really fast, it changed my posture. And there was by the shake and then rolling my shoulders, I felt, okay, it was also a form of
it is.
getting solid or grounding myself into a particular posture and position, ready to go out there and face what was at the time giving me anxiety. Okay, I have to speak in front of 200 people right now.
And they're going to judge me. And I'm not safe.
Oh, yeah. After a while, you get to the point where it doesn't matter. But I found that the shake, although I do say the problem with that is finding a quiet place that you can do that so nobody's watching, because sometimes
Yes.
they'll look at you like strange. Is she okay over there? So.
You having a spasm?
So it's important. Yeah. Do you have a little process that you could just guide us through for a minute or two so people could actually begin to feel it? I know even just that little moment of guiding us to feel the cord coming through our feet and at the end of our spine, I felt rapid changes. Do you have another favorite one that would a minute or two?
It happens really fast. Breath work, you can do that anywhere. And there's so many different ways that you can breathe that are going to make you feel peaceful. Because when you are stressed or anxious, your breath is up in the upper part of your chest. It's called clavicular breathing because it's around your clavicle. And what we want to do, and you're not getting a lot of oxygen in, and when you breathe like that, it's very shallow and it basically upsets your sympathetic nervous system. We want to go into the parasympathetic. And by a lot of ways, we can do that. And with our breath, just to inhale all the way down into your belly and just inhale through your nose. See, I could already feel that shift. And then exhale, follow that breath in your mind as it goes all the way out again through your nose. And just that speed, just inhaling all the way down. Let your belly expand and then pull it in towards your spine. And inhaling again, all the way down. And just following that breath in your mind all the way out again through your nose. Now we did 3 breaths and you can feel the shift.
Oh, it's amazing too. I'm a huge fan of breathing, besides the obvious reason. But I am. I that to me, breathing is so important. But I find a lot of the situations I'm in or people that I work with are stuck in that shallow breathing. They don't even,
Right. They're
to them,
stressed.
that's normal breathing now. They
They're
don't
not
realize,
aware.
yeah, they don't realize that their body has adapted a habit that's not so healthy for them or useful for them by staying stuck and just breathing rapid all the time.
And I also wanted to say that when you're feeling stressed or anxious, just to put your hand on your chest and just tell yourself, I love you. I'm safe. Or I love myself. I'm safe. And then also you can let that hand just stroke down, just very gently. Just, I love you. I'm safe. I love you. You can say your name to yourself. I'm safe. I love you. And that is so soothing. And it really helps you to become safe in your being, which pulls you in, which helps you ground. Feel that.
Yeah, it does. And I was just listening to MarBeth. I'm not saying it out loud, just repeating it in my head. It's amazing how fast it works and how the body responds. Oh my goodness. We're just down to about the last 5 minutes with MarBeth. I don't know where time goes. It's just always so engaging and intriguing and wonderful. What question haven't I asked that you wished I had?
I don't know. I've just been having so much fun.
I know. I know you have a chapter in there which I really enjoyed. It was closer down the end, which is one of my favorite sayings, is down the rabbit hole.
Oh, when I went into the quantum physics. Yeah, we are quantum beings.
Explore that in just the last couple of minutes, and then I'll open it up for you to share where people can find your book and more about you. Let's just talk a little bit about the science behind it.
If you took all the matter in our bodies, we are made of matter, right? Our bodies are solid. We can touch them and we can feel them. They are solid, right? Maybe not, because we're made out of atoms, and atoms are mostly space. And that space, we've heard of atom bombs, is very potent, shall we say. So if we took all the matter that's in the atoms of our body and condensed them, it would be about the size of an apple seed.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So we are basically energy. We are energy beings. Oh, I have to show you something. So my energy.
Oh
This,
my goodness. Okay,
there's
for the people on audio, explain what that is, because that's fascinating how it lights up.
I have a tube that I'm holding, which is an energy tube, and it has lights and it buzzes. And I'm holding it in one hand. When I close the circuit with my other hand, you can hear it and it lights up. It gets very excited about it because I'm energy, and
Mhm.
the energy closed the circuit on that. So we are energy. And quantum scientists have been exploring this for many decades. And one of the fun things that I experience is quantum entanglement. What the scientists discovered, that one particle, like a particle of light, if you had a particle that had connected with it in some way and took that other particle to the other side of the earth, if something happened to the first particle, the second particle would react. So I'm able to experience other people's energy in my body, even when they're in Saudi Arabia or Hong Kong or Australia, anywhere. I can feel that in my body as an empath, which has been very interesting, which is how I developed my intuitive energy mastery system, because I discovered that when I was working with someone overseas, their body was communicating to me, and I felt what their body was saying. I felt the pain in my chest from their heartache and sadness. And when I wrote it down, it vanished. And then I felt their knots in their gut. And when I wrote that down, that they were feeling issues with their personal power, that disappeared. So we are all one being, and we are all connected in some way. And so that's one of the most amazing things about that. That's how we can feel other people's energy. And even if you say, I don't feel other people's energy, I know you have, because you've gone to a party, you've walked into the party, and the vibes were amazing. You could feel how everybody was having a great time and you wanted to join. Or you walked into another place and the energy was so icky that you just didn't want to even be there. So you were perceiving energy.
That's a great example. I think we've all had those opportunities where we walked into a place and assessed it, like yippee or uh-oh. So
Yeah.
it can be as simple as that. Just that's beyond listening to ourselves. That's picking up the energy. That's picking up some people call it the vibes. That's picking up what's going on around us and being attuned to it.
You need to trust it. That's your body communicating with you.
And the more you trust it, the faster the messages come. I found that the more I released any apprehension or what is happening or sort of confusion about it and just released it and accepted it, it was amazing how fast change started to happen once I let go of all that resistance to, oh my goodness, that's just too far out there.
I know, it's amazing. And the weirder it is, and you trust it, it's wow, she's starting to understand now. And now I can guide her into some better and better things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're just down to the last minute, MarBeth. Where can they find the website with your explanation videos and be able to buy the book, etc.?
The explanation videos happen after you buy the book,
Right.
which
Sorry,
you can get on
yeah,
my
I mixed that up
website,
there for you.
which is marbethdunn.com.
MarBethdunn.com.
Yes.
We've been friends a long time. I know how to spell her name.
Yeah, we go back a long ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, MarBeth, for sharing. It's a fantastic book, Awaken the Healer Within. And it's really all about understanding ourselves at a much deeper level to begin to release things that maybe have been stuck for a long time. You might be surprised what you find as you begin to excavate those feelings from you.
Safely.
Safely, yes. And MarBeth's book, it's a fabulous book, and it's all about, she's always referring to the safety part of it. That's absolutely true. I love that. Everyone, I'll have her URL down in the description so you can find out about it quickly. You can buy the book there as well. And have a great week, whatever your adventures, and join me next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.